The ruler. Although it might bring to mind images of power and authority, there is a much deeper meaning to this archetype, one that we all embody to some degree. The ruler is a psychological force within us, guiding how we create order, take responsibility, and exert control over our lives. But if it's left unchecked, it can lead to rigidity, corruption, or an obsession with dominance. It may already be shaping your life in ways you don't realize, for better or worse. However, when balanced, the ruler can bring structure, security, and wisdom. On this channel, we've so far explored the hero, the valiant figure who overcomes challenges and saves the day, the fool, the risk taker who embraces uncertainty and transformation, and the sage, the seeker of wisdom who guides others with knowledge. But what about the ruler, the one who builds kingdoms, enforces order, and bears the weight of leadership? The ruler is the strategist, the protector, the master of systems. Yet, with great power comes great responsibility and great danger. Today we're diving deep into the archetype of the ruler, its role in myths, stories, and even our own lives. By the end of this video, you'll understand the ruler's unique journey, its incredible strengths, its dark pitfalls, and why mastering the ruler within you is key to true leadership and personal power. So Carl Jung's model of the psyche is divided into three main parts: the conscious mind, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious. The conscious mind is where our ego lives. The ego is the center of our conscious awareness, responsible for our sense of identity and our interactions with the outside world. It filters out perceptions, helping us navigate daily life by focusing on what we are aware of at any given moment. The personal unconscious, on the other hand, is where we store forgotten memories, suppressed thoughts, and feelings. Things we are not actively aware of, but can recall or bring to mind when needed. This is also where the shadow resides. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we reject or deny, often because they don't align with our self-image or society's expectations. However, understanding and integrating the shadow is essential for personal growth because it holds hidden strengths and insights, and being aware of it can also prevent you from committing the same mistakes over and over again. Lastly, the collective unconscious goes beyond the individual. It is a shared part of the human psyche containing archetypes, universal primal symbols and patterns of behavior that are common across cultures. This is something we all have in common as humans and are born with. It's in the collective unconscious where we find the 12 archetypes. These are patterns of behavior that resonate deeply within all of us. Today, we'll focus on one of the most influential and complex archetypes, the ruler. As we see in countless myths, stories, and historical figures, the ruler's journey represents the universal drive to establish order, build structures, and wield power. And while the ruler's role is vital for stability and leadership, it also has a dangerous shadow side which we'll explore. Let's go over what this ruler archetype even is. The ruler archetype has existed across cultures for centuries, from ancient kings and queens to modern CEOs and political leaders. In Jungian psychology, the ruler represents the drive to create order, establish systems, and maintain control, because we all want to have that control and security in our lives. Unlike the hero who seeks to overcome challenges, or the fool who embraces uncertainty, the ruler seeks stability, structure, and authority to shape the world according to their vision. This archetype is embodied in many of our favorite characters. Think of Mufasa from The Lion King, whose wisdom and leadership created harmony in his kingdom, or Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, whose ruthless efficiency ensured his family's dominance. These characters remind us that the ruler's power can bring prosperity when wielded wisely, or oppression when corrupted by fear and greed. In tarot, the emperor represents the ruler archetype. When upright, it symbolizes authority, structure, and leadership. Someone who brings stability and discipline to their domain. When reversed, it reflects tyranny, rigidity, and control taken to the extreme, leading to domination, oppression, or the loss of true power. And just like every archetype, the ruler has a shadow side, and it often manifests as the tyrant. While the ruler embodies order, vision, and responsibility, The tyrant twists these qualities into control, dominance, and fear. The tyrant fears instability and clings to power, enforcing rigid structures to maintain their authority at all costs. In real life, we see this in people who become obsessed with control, whether in their careers, relationships, or social status. These individuals refuse to delegate, micromanage everything, and see others as tools rather than collaborators. They may also act with entitlement, believing their status or intelligence makes them inherently superior. In a broader sense, we see this in authoritarian leaders who suppress dissent, valuing their power over the well-being of their people. In pop culture, let's think back to the character of Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones. His calculated leadership brings stability, but his obsession with legacy and absolute control leads to cruelty and ultimately his downfall. Another example is Doctor Doom from Marvel Comics, a ruler whose genius and iron will make him a formidable leader, yet his ego and need for absolute power turn his rule into one of tyranny rather than true prosperity. Psychologically, Carl Jung teaches us that the shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we suppress. For the ruler, the tyrant emerges when they reject their natural leadership potential out of fear. Fear of losing control, of appearing weak, or of trusting others. Understanding this shadow reminds us that if we find ourselves overly controlling or dismissing the autonomy of others, it may reflect an unresolved fear within us. A fear of letting go, adapting, or allowing others to step into their own power. There are 4 major advantages of the ruler archetype, and if these are applied in your own life, they can help you succeed and find more knowledge and happiness. I will bring up examples from pop culture to help drive home the message. One of the ruler's greatest strengths is their ability to, number 1, provide stability and order. While others may struggle to keep things in line, the ruler steps up to maintain structure and balance. Think of King T'Challa from Black Panther. As the ruler of Wakanda, T'Challa doesn't just keep his kingdom stable. He fosters peace and security for his people through strong leadership. In the face of threats, he makes tough decisions, ensuring that chaos doesn't take hold. The ruler reminds us that true leadership isn't about domination. It's about creating a foundation where people can thrive. In real life, we see this kind of leadership in action across various settings, whether it's on a sports team, at work, or within a family. As a leader, you might find yourself in situations where others are looking to you for guidance, whether it's leading a project, organizing a group, or stepping up when things aren't going well. Like T'Challa, you must not only maintain order but also make tough decisions to keep the peace and ensure everyone moves forward together. A good ruler doesn't wait for things to fall apart. They take proactive steps to create stability, whether it's guiding a team through a difficult decision, supporting your family through hard times, or maintaining a calm presence at work when stress levels rise. Another one of the ruler's most powerful strengths is their ability to, number 2, think long-term and develop a clear vision for the future. Unlike leaders who focus on short-term gains, the ruler looks beyond immediate challenges to secure lasting success. Take Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings. As a future king, he knows that true leadership isn't about rushing into battles. It's about preparing for the future, ensuring that his people will be safe and prosperous long after the immediate threats are gone. Aragorn makes decisions with the long-term well-being of Middle-earth in mind, knowing that each step that he takes now will affect generations to come. In real life, strategic thinking can apply to every facet of life, whether in business, personal goals, or even in relationships. A leader who thinks long-term isn't just concerned with immediate results. They're laying the groundwork for future growth. Whether it's in the workplace where you plan out your career path and make decisions that set you up for success, or in your personal life where you make choices that ensure a healthy, fulfilling future, having a strategic vision allows you to stay focused on what really matters. Like Aragorn, being a ruler means seeing the bigger picture and ensuring your actions today contribute to a stronger tomorrow. One of the most defining qualities of the ruler archetype is the ability to, number 3, command respect and loyalty, not through force, but through strength of character and actions. Luffy from One Piece is a perfect example of this. Despite never demanding respect or loyalty from his crew, they follow him faithfully because they believe in his vision and the person that he is. Luffy's dream of becoming Pirate King isn't about power or dominance. It's about respecting others' freedom and pursuing a life of adventure and independence. As he said so himself, he doesn't want to conquer anything. To be Pirate King is to be the freest man in the world. And as we see throughout the story, Luffy wants that freedom for everyone else. He wants to share that freedom with the entire world. His crew stands by him because they trust his leadership and feel the deep sense of loyalty that comes from knowing that he values them as equals. In real life, a true leader commands respect not by demanding it, but by living in alignment with their values and creating an environment where others feel valued and supported. Whether you're leading a team at work, a group of friends, or even within your family, the key to earning respect and loyalty is to lead with integrity, fairness, and a genuine concern for others. Like Luffy, being a true leader is about respecting people's autonomy while uniting them around a common goal. And just like Luffy's crew, you'll find that people will follow you. Not because they have to, but because they believe in your vision and your character, and because you respect their freedom to be the best version of themselves. This brings us to the next great strength of the ruler. Number 4, empowering others through leadership. A true leader doesn't hoard power. They lift others up, creating a legacy of strength and success that outlasts their own reign. Professor X from X-Men exemplifies this perfectly. As the leader of the X-Men, he doesn't just seek to control his students. He nurtures them, helping them discover their own potential, encouraging them to become leaders in their own right. Professor X's ultimate goal is to create a world where mutants and humans coexist peacefully. But he knows that to achieve this, his students must be empowered to think for themselves, act with integrity, and lead with compassion. Take, for example, how he empowers Cyclops to step into the role of group leader. By teaching him responsibility, persistence, and how to make difficult decisions, Professor X prepares him to lead when the time comes. Similarly, Jean Grey is guided by Professor X to harness her immense power with discipline and compassion, while Wolverine, despite his rough exterior, learns from Professor X to balance strength with wisdom and emotional understanding. Each of these characters is elevated through his mentorship, growing into leaders in their own right. In real life, a true ruler understands that their success is tied to the success of those that they lead. Whether it's in the workplace, where you mentor and support your colleagues to reach their full potential, or within your family, where you encourage and uplift the next generation, empowering others creates a lasting impact. Like Professor X, you don't just lead from the front, you create an environment where others feel valued, capable, and ready to step into leadership roles themselves. A great leader builds a legacy not just by their own actions, but by the growth and strength of the people that they inspire. Now let's go over the disadvantages. It's important to be aware of these so that you do not commit these mistakes in your own life. Number 1, one of the greatest challenges of the ruler archetype is the tendency to become overly controlling or authoritarian. While they excel at creating order and enforcing structure, this drive for control can sometimes turn into an obsession. A ruler who's fixated on maintaining power might suppress dissent, discourage creative thinking, and restrict individual freedoms in an effort to maintain stability. This creates an environment where people feel trapped, stifled, and unable to express themselves authentically. Take, for example, President Snow from the Hunger Games. As the leader of Panem, he rules through fear, enforcing strict control over the districts. His obsession with maintaining power and order leads him to crush any signs of rebellion, using brutal tactics like the Hunger Games to keep the population in check. Snow's authoritarian rule stifles individuality and freedom, creating a society where survival is dependent on compliance and obedience. His need for control isolates him from any form of genuine leadership or compassion. And in the end, it's his inability to allow dissent that ultimately leads to his downfall. This tendency toward over-control can also be seen in real-world authoritarian regimes throughout history. Fascist rulers like Mussolini and Hitler similarly used fear and oppression to maintain power, silencing opposition and eliminating any form of free expression. Their obsession with order and control led to the devastating consequences not just for the people they ruled, but for themselves as well. Over time, such leaders often become consumed by their own need for dominance, isolating themselves and undermining their own legitimacy. Authoritarianism can eventually lead to rebellion, as we saw in the French Revolution and the Haitian Revolution. In your everyday life, you may have encountered a leader who micromanages every aspect of their organization, making it difficult for others to step up and contribute their ideas. Instead of empowering their team, they create a culture of fear and compliance where people are afraid to take risks or innovate. The ruler must be cautious not to let their desire for control prevent growth and collaboration. Without room for flexibility and self-expression, the very stability they seek to create can crumble as followers may become resentful or disengaged. Another disadvantage of the ruler archetype is number 2, the potential for inflexibility, which can lead to isolation, loneliness, and self-destruction. When a leader becomes too focused on their vision and their way of doing things, they may alienate those around them by refusing to adapt or consider alternative perspectives. The rigid mindset can push away allies, prevent meaningful collaboration, and ultimately isolate the leader, leaving them to carry the burden of leadership alone. Take, for example, again, Dr. Doom from Marvel Comics. As one of the most powerful and brilliant villains in the Marvel Universe, Doom is often depicted as rigidly adhering to his own ideology, believing that only he knows how to bring order to the world. His refusal to compromise or accept the input of others often leads to his own isolation. In the Secret Wars storyline, Doom's unyielding desire for control over the universe leads him to seize power over Battleworld. But in doing so, he creates resentment among people, and this ultimately leads to a rebellion. This also ends up isolating him from others. His inability to work with others, even when it could benefit him, only deepens his loneliness and ultimately leads to the downfall of his empire. In real life, the same can happen to a leader who insists on sticking to their own rigid plans without allowing for input or feedback. Such a leader may end up feeling isolated as their team or followers become frustrated with their lack of flexibility. In extreme cases, this could lead to the collapse of a company or organization as the leader's unwillingness to adapt creates distance between them and their supporters, leaving them isolated in their pursuit of control. Now, one of the most dangerous risks of the ruler archetype is number 3, the potential for becoming ruthless. In their drive to maintain power, control, and order, some leaders may resort to extreme measures, forsaking morality and compassion in favor of their own agendas. This ruthless pursuit of dominance can lead them to make harsh decisions, manipulate others, and eliminate any opposition, ultimately sacrificing their integrity in the process. Take, for example, Michael Corleone from The Godfather. Initially, Michael tried to distance himself from the family business, but as he assumes control, he becomes increasingly ruthless. His need for control leads him to betray his own brother Fredo. Although we can say Fredo also betrayed Michael, the way that Michael handled Fredo was pretty ruthless. Michael also distances himself from his sister Connie, using her for his own purposes and subjecting her to emotional manipulation. His actions toward his wife Kay are equally cold, as he keeps her in the dark about his dealings even when she pleads for transparency. Ultimately, this leads to her falling out of love with him and aborting her baby, leading Michael to physically attack her and act cold towards her for the rest of his life. Although Michael's ruthlessness can be understood as a means to protect his family and maintain power, his decisions ultimately isolate him. By choosing power over loyalty and love, he loses his family, respect, and the connection he once had with those closest to him. His coldness and obsession with control leave him lonely, without meaningful relationships, and we see at the end that he dies alone. In real life, the same can happen when leaders prioritize power over ethics. Whether in business or politics, a leader who chooses ruthless tactics to eliminate competition or silence opposition risks losing the respect and trust of those around them. For example, a business executive who uses underhand methods to sabotage a competitor or a politician who resorts to manipulative tactics to undermine a rival may win in the short term, but in the long run, they risk becoming isolated and feared rather than respected. One of the greatest disadvantages of the ruler archetype is number 4, the failure to delegate effectively. While a good ruler knows the importance of empowering others and building systems that allow for the success of their vision, an ineffective ruler may try to do everything themselves, overburdening themselves with too many responsibilities. This lack of delegation can lead to burnout, stagnation, and the collapse of the very order they sought to maintain. One prime example of failing to delegate effectively comes from Naruto and the character of Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage. Sarutobi, revered for his wisdom and leadership, took on more responsibilities than he should have, believing that everything was his burden to bear. Despite having capable subordinates and younger leaders like Jiraiya and Tsunade, Sarutobi kept too much control in his hands, particularly when it came to defending the village from threats like Orochimaru's defection. This overextension of his leadership led him to become emotionally and physically drained, and he struggled to make decisions with the clarity that delegation position could have afforded him. His failure to empower those around him ultimately culminated in his tragic demise during his battle with Orochimaru. If Sarutobi had trusted his younger generation and shared the weight of responsibility, he could have avoided much of the strain and perhaps even ensured a smoother transition for the village in his absence. His inability to delegate effectively left him isolated, and while his sacrifice was noble, it's a poignant reminder of how even the most well-intentioned leaders can falter when they fail to trust others with leadership and responsibility. In real life, this can happen in business too. A CEO or business owner who insists on making every decision themselves, micromanaging every aspect of the company, will quickly find themselves overwhelmed. Their inability to delegate tasks to qualified team members may cause the business to stagnate, employees to become disillusioned, and their own productivity to suffer. The ruler's failure to trust and empower others ultimately undermines the success they hope to achieve, leading to frustration, burnout, and potential collapse. Like the hero, the ruler embarks on a journey, but their path is less about personal glory and more about creating stability, order, and legacy. The ruler starts with a deep sense of responsibility, symbolized by the Emperor card in tarot, a figure with authority standing tall, ready to lead. The ruler's journey teaches us that true leadership is about more than control. It's about service, vision, and empowerment. The ruler doesn't simply command. They create environments where others can thrive. But this power comes with the risk of isolation, arrogance, and ruthless behavior if not kept in check. The ruler must constantly evolve, balancing strength with compassion and authority with humility. Through their challenges, they often evolve into a wise leader, guiding others with fairness and insight. The ruler archetype reminds us of the importance of leadership, vision, and responsibility. While the hero may fight battles, the ruler ensures that society, organizations, or families thrive, making difficult choices for the greater good. So as you reflect on your own life, ask yourself, when was the last time you took charge and provided direction in a situation? When did you step up as a leader and inspire others to follow? Within all of us lies a desire to want to control everything and rule the world. Like that Tears for Fears song. But we could all use some of the ruler archetype's wisdom to take control of our lives in a way that does not self-destruct us or isolate us, but empowers us and the people around us. However, as you go along in your life's journey, it's important to also integrate other archetypes. For example, the hero archetype can give you the strength and determination to push through challenges, while the sage archetype offers the wisdom to lead with discernment. To understand more about the sage archetype, check out this video right here. And make sure you subscribe so you can watch more videos about psychology and spirituality like this.